Are you wondering why you keep losing people in your small business? Well, hang on. We're going to tackle that today. Hey, badass business owner. I bet you are frustrated like there's no tomorrow because no matter what you do, you seem to keep losing people and you don't quite understand why. If you're lucky, they last 90 days. And if for most of you, or for many of you, maybe not most of you, but for many of you, sometimes you lose them in 2 or 3 days. They do the first shift. They never show up again. You might be lucky if you get them for a week, maybe 2. And it's frustrating and it makes it very difficult for you to run your business when you keep losing people. So what the heck is going on and what can you do about it? Well, the first thing you need to do is you really need to look in the mirror. And I know some of you want to check out at this point. Please don't, because it's very important that you do this exercise because you're going to find where you might be accidentally causing the problems that you are facing, because you really need to dive in and look at why are they leaving. It's not always what they tell you, because sometimes they just up and leave and don't tell you anything. That's actually telling you something. And sometimes they'll tell you one thing, but the reality is it's another reason why they're leaving, which is why you've got to look in the mirror and you've got to dive in a little bit deeper. You see, you lose people for a few different reasons. The first one is just through natural attrition, which we'll go over deeper into each of these in a second. The second one is you're probably hiring the wrong person in the first place. And there are some things that you can do to help out with that. You can sometimes set poor expectations where they don't know exactly what it is, or they didn't know what the job was actually going to be about or what they were going to get day to day. We'll talk a little bit more. Lack of training is another reason people get frustrated. They don't know what the heck they're doing and they're out of there. And I hate to tell you this, for some people, it's because they feel they work for a crappy boss. Now, you may not mean to be a crappy boss, but you might be accidentally. So we're going to look at that a little bit as well. Now, natural attrition is just things that happen. You have great employees and they leave because their family moves, they move, they're graduating, they get their dream job that they've been waiting for. You know, natural attrition is a good thing, and they're frustrating because a lot of times there are good employees, but natural attrition is really the ultimate goal. That's how you want to lose people, is through natural attrition, not through the other ways. Now, sometimes we hire the wrong person. We become desperate to hire somebody. I call it fogging up the mirror. If they can pass the basic minimum standard, we hire them. We fail to screen them the right way. We fail to ask the right questions to really understand what it is. Listen, people can interview really well. That doesn't mean they're going to become great employees. So sometimes you've got to really dig in a little bit deeper to make sure that you're looking for those warning signs, because sometimes people give us warning signs that really should say something to us. You know, if anything is, their answers are too perfect, a lot of times that's a warning sign all in its own. Sometimes we know it's a bad fit. We don't trust our gut, and you can't bring someone in expecting to change them. If you feel that it's a bad fit or it's not going to work, don't be surprised when it doesn't work. You know, here's one of those warning signs. I just threw it on here because I remembered at the last minute. You know, if they won't look you in the eye, they're not going to look your customer or client in the eye either. You're the most important person to them at that moment when they're getting hired. And if they won't look at you or interact with you, and this even goes for introverts, because, you know, I'm an introvert, I get it. And it's not necessarily your most comfortable thing, but if they're not going to look at you while you're having this interview, they're not going to be dealing with your customers the same way. So you need to look for all the different things. The biggest thing is you need to slow down on hiring. I'll do future videos on this to really help, but it really does start a lot of times. I would say probably the single biggest reason people lose people who lose them really quickly, like they don't even make it the first week or two, it's typically because they hired the wrong person in the first place. And tied to that are poor expectations. When we're doing that interview and when we're sitting down with them, we don't really clearly communicate the hours that they're going to be working and expected to work, the job duties they're going to be doing, and how exactly that job should get done. For example, you always should paint the worst case with the hours, because they might think that they're only going to have to work a few hours a week, or maybe they think they're going to get 40 hours a week. And the reality is, you know what, it might be some weeks are 20, some weeks are 30. Did you give those hours right? Job duties, you know what, sometimes we underplay how hard the job is because we don't want to scare them away. But the reality reality is the minute they get on the job site and they realize how hard it is, guess what? They're out of there. So if anything, you need to make like the typical day worse than what it really is. And then that way, every single day is a cakewalk compared to what it is that you teed them up for to understand. Lack of training. Sometimes we have this tendency to throw people to the wolves, sink or swim, learn by fire, whatever you want to call it. We've all been there, done that at some point in time in our career where we have to try to figure it out for ourselves. Well, unfortunately, a lot of people do not survive that way. And it's very important that we give them the training and we don't assume they know what to do. We also need to pay attention to who we choose to mentor them, because sometimes some of your best people aren't the best trainers. So even though you think you hooked them up with your best person, if that person is a lousy trainer, they're never going to learn how to do what it is that you need them to do. They're going to get frustrated and they're going to leave. Lack of communication I put on here because sometimes that ties into the whole thing. We don't really clearly explain what it is that we want from them. And I want to go back to this one, crappy boss. You know what? If you're always busy, you're always running around and you come across as you don't listen or you don't take the time to communicate to them, nobody wants to work for that person. They're going to get frustrated at some point in time. And like I said, you may be doing it accidentally because you are running around with the chicken, like a chicken with your head cut off. But if you don't listen and you don't communicate, people aren't going to stick around. If you have an attitude, if you're snappy, and you know what? Sometimes we all get an attitude and snappy when we're tired, when we run down, when the job is running late. But here's the thing. If you're constantly having an attitude, snapping at people, cussing at people, treating them poorly, they're not going to last long. And doesn't appreciate you, you don't appreciate them. Let me tell you, the number one reason people leave a job, period, is they don't feel appreciated. They don't feel like the work they do is appreciated. They don't feel like the ideas they bring. They feel people don't listen to them and they don't appreciate what it is that they have to bring to the table. Don't ever underestimate feeling appreciated in the job. Every day you need to tell your folks, thank you, great job. I appreciate everything you did. You know what? Find some specific things for them every once in a while to really make them feel like you're speaking to them directly. We'll continue to do more videos on leadership skills to help you with that. But, you know, you got to look at them here and you got to ask yourself, are people leaving because I'm a crappy boss? Just, you know, could be accidental, could be on purpose. I don't know. Hopefully you're not doing it on purpose, but being a crappy boss is one of the reasons people listen. You know, at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. You are ultimately responsible for anything that happens in your business. And if people are leaving for any of the reasons that we've talked about so far, it is a direct reflection of you. It's your way of how you hire. It's your way of how you communicate. It's your way how you train them, and ultimately as a boss. So just always remember that. There's no sense you pointing fingers at them. It really does start with you. Listen, people do not wake up in the morning expecting to fail. They just don't. You have to look in the mirror first, or the pattern of you losing people is never going to change. People need money. People need the job. Now, are there some flakes out there? Absolutely, but they should be weeded out at the time that you hire them. But just remember, your people do not come to work every single day expecting to fail. They want to succeed. They want to earn their pay. They may not want to excel, but they want to at least come in and do the minimum of what it is that they need to do. So if they're failing at that and they're leaving, you got to look in the mirror first. Now, one last thing. If you're struggling with finding good people, there is another video called Good Employees Are Hard to Find. I'm going to talk about what you can do. This is a great method for you to be able to find good people. And just check out the video. We'll put it here as a link and we'll put it in the show notes. But check out that video and we'll go over the number one way I feel you're going to get the most success finding great people. All right. Check that one out. Now I want to give you homework before you leave. It's your turn. Why did your last 5 employees really leave? I want you to think about them, the reason they gave you, and what you think possibly happened that really caused them to leave. And if you liked this video and what you saw, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, click that bell, make sure you never miss any of the episodes that come out. Remember, we try to keep them short and sweet so you get a nugget to go. And if you love listening and learning on the run, don't forget to download the Badass Business Owner podcast onto your phone using your favorite podcast app. We also are located, all the shows are here on YouTube as well. Now get out there and be the badass that I know you are.